A Davante Adams trade may be imminent as the Las Vegas Raiders want Adams off the team very soon, and the New York Jets, behind Joe Douglas and Aaron Rodgers, still might need to make a move with the season being disappointing so far. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here, and we're going to jump right into the video as always. But guys, also, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to us. And thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. We did it. And now we have backgrounds because of it. But we're going to jump right into the video, guys. Because as you can see here, these two men in Raiders owner, Mark Bryant is not his name.
Mark Davis.
Mark Davis is his name. I'm thinking of a basketball coach. And also Davante Adams. They want this marriage to end. And Mark Davis and the Raiders want this done sooner rather than later, and this was broken down on The Athletic. Now, as mentioned by Diana Rossini, since last week, she's had plenty of conversations about where Davante Adams might be traded, but the more pressing question right now is when will he land with a new team? And as far as the Raiders and the receiver are concerned, they want him to have a new home sometime in the next 48 hours. That was around 24 hours ago. Vegas is still in search of a second-round pick as compensation, and it's worth noting that the Jets' London trip will not hold up the process as the Jets left London right after they lost that game to the Vikings. And it's also important to note that Rossini mentioned that New York and the Saints remain the favorites, with the Steelers still firmly in the hunt. The Chiefs and Bills aren't necessarily out of it, though perhaps Buffalo might be more willing to budge after Josh Allen's recent struggles, which notably came without top receiver Khalil Shakir in the lineup in their loss at Houston, obviously a game Buffalo wanted to win. As now with one game, when the Jets and the Bills play, they could completely flip if the Bills are still the top team in the AFC East. Also, he lost to Stephon Diggs, which he didn't want to do. All of this is leading, Matt, to a situation where looking at the New York Jets, looking at their struggles so far this season, looking at the fact the Raiders want to get this thing done, it feels like it would not be too surprising if in this week the Jets do pull the trigger on Davante Adams. What are you seeing from this? What do you think about this?
Yeah, so Chris, what I'm seeing is that the Raiders were reportedly blindsided by this Davante Adams trade request. He went to the coaches and said, this is not the way that I want to end my career. Trade me. So we talked about him being the consummate professional so far, but it seems like even a great professional like him, sometimes he has his breaking points. So goes to the coaches, says trade me. Now we have all these other things going on. Now, the holdup right now, Chris, is the fact that the Raiders want a second-round pick, and they don't want to take on all the salary of Davante Adams when they trade him away. But that doesn't make sense to me because they need the salary cap for this year to bring in players to compete this year. But if you're trying to compete, then why would you ever even consider trading away Davante Adams? And if you are trading away Davante Adams, that means you are not competing. And if you're not competing, then the salary cap doesn't matter as much. So you can actually take on Davante Adams' salary to get more draft capital for the future. So it doesn't make any sense to me why they are sticking so hard to this. And the Jets, if I'm the Jets front office, I am definitely that the salary is an important part because the Jets do not have enough salary cap after Hassan Reddick comes back, that is. They do not have enough salary cap to take on Davante Adams' entire contract for this year. So they need the Raiders to take on some of that salary. Now, the reports are that the Raiders haven't gotten the trade compensation what they were looking for, which was that second-round pick and then additional future picks. But if the Jets can give the Raiders the second-round pick that they're looking for, and the Raiders are willing to take on that extra draft, the extra salary cap, I really think that this trade would get done because right now the Jets season looks like it could be in trouble. Aaron Rodgers is not on the same page as all the other wide receivers. We know not Garrett Wilson, Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers have history. They're going to have that chemistry as soon as Davante Adams comes into the building. So right now, Chris, we've watched a lot of Jets football that has been really, 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 really bad. Right now is the only time we've had hope. Yes, I understand people are smartly saying in our comment section that Davante Adams probably isn't the end-all be-all fix to this season, but he could be the fix. And right now, he's the only possible way to improve this team other than waiting for Hassan Reddick to come back. But he's not going to He's not coming back until week 13, most likely, because that's when he's forced to report via his contract. That's when he's going to be able to play 6 games to accrue a year. But back to Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers has not looked like the Aaron Rodgers of old this year. The Jets need to do something to save this season, because I don't care if we lose a second-round pick going forwards. We've had plenty of second-round picks since 2010, the last time the Jets were in the playoffs, and we never even made the playoffs with them. When we finally have a chance, we have to go all in. It doesn't make sense to think a little bit about the future and a little bit about the now. It worked for the Los Angeles Rams when they went all in on that one Super Bowl year. I think it was 2021. They got hurt pretty badly for it after the fact, but they won the Super Bowl, so it doesn't matter. Jets fans have been forced to watch such horrible football for so long. Chris, would it really be so bad if they went all in and made it to the AFC Championship game, and then maybe they go back to the bottom of the league after 2 years? Because right now, what this team looks like, it looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to be here for 1, maybe 2 years, and then after he's gone, we have no reason to believe that the Jets aren't going to go right back to the bottom of the standings. So we have to maximize the Aaron Rodgers years, and Davante Adams, trading for Davante Adams is the way how to do it. What has to happen? The Jets need to show up. They need to give the Raiders that extra draft capital, and the Raiders, we have to convince them by signing draft capital, we have to convince them to take on the salary of Davante Adams.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The commenters aren't fully wrong. Trading for Davante Adams does not fix every problem the Jets have, but it fixes a major problem, which the fact is the Jets' defense has been perfectly fine without Haason Reddick. The Jets' offense has not been perfectly fine. It seems like Rodgers and the receivers, as you mentioned, not on the same page at all. Rodgers and the coaches don't seem to be on the same page at all. I honestly trust Aaron Rodgers more than anyone else on the Jets' offense. I understand that he's older. I get that there's a world that he's not the same player anymore. That's not lost on me. But still, something has to happen. You need to add some sort of dynamic force to this offense. And yes, the Raiders, if they want to trade Adams, they don't want to contend. They're not going to contend if they keep him. I think there's 2 major problems with the Raiders, which is 1, they're clearly not a good front office, and 2, Mark Davis's haircut is still the same after all these years. Why? You have billions of dollars. Get a haircut, dude. But that's not the point of this. I just had to, every time I look at him, I just get confused. But also, guys, there is something on this. Never mind, I'm kidding. Nah, there is. Now, Jordan Schultz mentioned that teams interested in trading for Davante Adams have told Schultz that it's unrealistic for the Raiders to expect a second rounder while also having the acquiring team take on all of Adams' 2024 salary, as most teams just won't be able to afford it. There doesn't seem to be a team desperate enough to give Vegas everything that Vegas is asking for. It would appear like the Raiders would have to give in on something, but the Raiders could also just tell teams they're going to keep Adams and that's it. As you said, it doesn't make sense why the Raiders are so against taking on any of Adams' salary. You're not going to win football games anyway. You're going to be able to tank properly without Davante Adams. It makes everything easier. Adams' value isn't going to randomly rise the older he gets. He's already on the wrong side of 30. Like, all of this adds up into the Raiders are probably going to have to budge on something. Most likely the Jets are going to offer more draft picks than any other team. It just makes sense. The Jets don't have much money that they're working with. They really want Davante Adams. They have Aaron Rodgers. They're 2-3 in a year that I think most Jets fans felt by week 5 going into the season they'd probably be 4-1 or at the very worst 3-2. Yeah, the 49ers were a tough game. The Jets looked bad. There was a good excuse of Rodgers is rusty. He's also 40. The Jets offense just went up against the 49ers. That's all fair and good. I don't think we expected to then lose to the Broncos and the Vikings in back-to-back weeks, now be 2-3 in a desperate, I don't want to call it a must-win in week 6, but in a game you really don't want to lose to the Bills in week 6 or everything, you start to pull the fire alarms. The Jets are in a very weird spot right now, being that they're underperforming. I agree. What are they going to do with a second-round pick? Draft someone who's solid for the Jets to go 6-11? Like, who cares? Who cares? I don't. I want to see the team make the playoffs. If you start making the playoffs, your culture changes. If your culture changes, your players don't want to leave. More players will want to go to the Jets, We've seen veterans want to go to the Jets to play with Aaron Rodgers. If you keep establishing a winning culture, even when Rodgers is gone, you'll continue to get players who want to go there understanding, well, they know how to win. They've built up a culture. It's not a head coach carousel, which is still happening because Saleh's, if this year keeps up, he's not making it out. He's not, or he'll probably make it out of this season. He's not making it any farther than that. Joe Douglas might get fired also, depending on what goes down. The Jets are in a spot where Joe Douglas has to be thinking, do I really want to get fired and uproot my life? What if a team in the Northeast, I was at Philly last, what if a team in the Northeast doesn't want me? I have to uproot my entire life and move to somewhere completely different for maybe not a general manager job. Joe Douglas knows that his back might not be exactly up against the wall, but there's not too much room in between his back and the wall at this point. He's going to have to understand everyone, all the fans are going to be happy if the Jets trade for Davante Adams. I imagine Woody Johnson would be happy, especially if the Jets can leave some of that money in Las Vegas. It just would make, it feels like it makes no sense to not trade for Davante Adams as the Jets have randomly within 5 weeks become in dire straits.
Yeah, so Chris, another thing that we haven't talked about, if the Raiders hang on to Davante Adams' salary, he gets the Las Vegas no income tax. If he comes to New York, that changes. So Davante Adams he's on our side for all things considered.
That's a good point.
But also with Joe Douglas, we think he's done a great job.
Yeah.
But if this season turns into a bust, then no one's gonna be safe. And I could see why he would fire the general manager. Not because he's made mistakes, but just because he's been the general manager and the team has wildly underperformed. But we're gonna have to see. I really hope Joe Douglas. We always talk about how he doesn't panic. I'm kind of hoping he panics here. We need Davante Adams. He's the only thing that gives us a fair chance to make some noise this year.
I agree. I think if there's, as I said, if there's ever a time to start pulling the fire alarm, it's right now. Jobs are at risk. No one wants to get fired. Everyone wants to see the Jets win. You go and you make this move, and you don't allow other teams a chance to make this move. Guys, something else to panic about is the fact that we got over 1,000 subscribers. Let's keep that momentum up. Thank you so much for all the support. We're going to keep going on this, obviously, but that will be for another video, another day. Also, make sure to check us out on Knicks Digest every Friday at 6 p.m. for Happy Hour Sports. We're going to have a lot of fun on there, so make sure you tune in. Have a great day, guys, and go Jets.